Truth? Yes. Truth? Yes. You won't find truth where humans are. You won't find. To say we are all truthful all the time is to say that we are some kind of vegetables that have no life within us.
In a Rise TV, we'll have Rufai Oseni. And in Channels Television, we'll have Shion Now, these two people are regarded as one of the most trending two news broadcasters on our traditional media space. And because I am interested in learning how to do better in my own space, I would want you to quickly tell me, between these two people, I'm sure you've watched their interviews, how they interact with their guests. Between both of them, who do you think do their job better?
For me, it is not a question of preference. It is a question of communication.
Recently, there's someone we know as B Lord. He calls himself B Lord. He's an entrepreneur. According to him, sells different kinds of things. He's also into real estate and all of that. So recently, B Lord went to China. I'm asking this question because of image. Earlier, you talked about branding and image. B Lord went to China and got iPhone XR upgraded to the newly launched iPhone 17. I don't know how they do it. They convert iPhone XR to iPhone 17. It looks exactly like the same, but it's not the original iPhone 17. And then he brings this iPhone back to Nigeria and he's advertising it. I think he was selling his own about 450,000. But the original iPhone 17, of course, is over 3 million naira. Now, very dark man who is known to have confronted fraud both in the religious space and in business space on social media, went to the same China, did the same thing, and then called out B Lord for selling his own product, his own fake iPhone 17 at an outrageous price. Do you think that this is going to be a problem for the Nigerian image? How do you think this is going to portray Nigeria globally? I mean, people are going to look at us and say, oh, this is a country where the people brag about pirating products.
I'm concerned about the reputation of Nigeria. Whatever each of us are doing, whatever we are doing, we need to be very mindful about the implication, not just on our own reputation, but on the reputation of our country. So my response to that is,
Dr. Omoniyi Ibieton is a journalist, scholar, and strategic communication expert with over 2 decades of experience in public service and media relations.
I've been involved in theaters of the struggles for Nigeria's democracy, which explains why I had to go through detention experiences and rustication expo and what have you. I've done communication largely. I studied journalism, essentially, first and foremost, and I practiced and I taught it at the International Institute of Journalism, which is the only campus in this part of Africa.
He currently serves as Secretary General of the African Public Relations Association, APRA, and is recognized among Nigeria's 50 most influential PR professionals. The former head of media relations at the Nigerian Communications Commission, he has advised global organizations like MasterCard and MacArthur Foundation and authored Social Media, Social Demography and Voting Behavior in Nigeria. A PhD holder in communication from Northwest University, South Africa, Dr. Ibieton is a respected thought leader shaping the future of communication across Africa. With this intimidating profile, I've been able to structure my questions today around communication because I see that is where we're really going to have very interesting discussion on. So my first question would be, what is communication? Communication as we know it sometimes when I read posts on social media, I feel angry because I see people who try to communicate a particular idea, but they are unable to do it. And then those who read such posts are also unable to get the real idea behind such posts. And then when you read comment, you see people who make different kinds of comment that are not related to the post. So as a professional in this field, I would want to know your own definition of communication.
Okay, thank you. Kel, it's good to be here. I am happy with what I see here and what you guys are doing.
Thank you, sir.
Because it's connected to communication, it's particularly of interest to me because it is the most fundamental resource for survival. You ask me, first I'll react to when you said intimidating profile. Just to say that, don't forget that I'm just a particle of some people's inspirations. So when you say that's intimidating, but I thank you for your kind words. But let me start by saying communication is not just the transfer of information. As a matter of fact, because I also teach, if I ask my student what is communication and the response is communication is the transfer of information, that would be like 25%. So what is communication? In response to your question, communication is the sharing of meaning. It is the simplest, best definition that I have found.
Sharing of meaning.
Sharing of meaning. Sharing of meaning. Let me approach it from a psycholinguistic point. Okay? Because it is both a matter of mind and language. That's what I'm saying I'm coming from. Because I could also approach it from a social philosophical point. But I mean, we are speaking to an audience that needs to understand what we're discussing. And that's why I say it's the sharing of meaning. Anybody, even from primary school, you understand that. And why is it so? The capacity to communicate to the last mile, to the broadest form of that exercise, practically resides with humans. So it's a matter for human cognition. So when I said communication is the sharing of meaning, what I'm saying is humans get into a space to understand each other. What do you need that understanding for? For socialization, for social organization. I need to be able to communicate with you for us to be able to understand each other. So when I say communication is the sharing of meaning, I meant that it starts with shared intentionality. And I'm using that particular in inverted commas. I haven't borrowed that from Professor Nike. Shared intentionality. Communication is an invitation to embrace, to listen to my intention. So when you and I agree to communicate, we agreed to share the intentionality and share my intention with you. You understand what I have said. You accept the invitation that I have extended to you to communicate. And I have always made reference to children in describing this. If you look at the way children begin to acquire language, typically things begin to manifest when they're like 9 months. You could start with babbling, then tactile communication, touching. Okay? Sometimes they are good at observing. So when a child wants to communicate with you, a child is likely to touch you. Aside from trying to murmur something to you to get your attention,
Yes.
that is shared intentionality. Sharing the intention to communicate, an invitation to you to communicate, to do what? To relate with such a child. And if you are not responding, the child is likely to touch you.
Again.
Okay? And when the child touches, at that point, the child is unable to give full expression to share the intention. And so if it's an object that the child needs you to know, the child points at that.
Yes.
That's pantomiming.
Please come again.
Pantomime. From pantomime.
Yeah.
That's pantomiming.
Pantomiming.
So shared intentionality starts with an invitation to understand what I want to tell you. Touch from a child or from us who are adults. You are my friend on a social media platform and I made a post. I have shared intention to engage with my friends. Shared intentionality. If our field of experience overlap, that is, if all my friends get the point that I'm making and are willing to contribute, and they make contribution, that's an acceptance of my invitation to share my intention with them.
You know, this is quite very eye-opening. It's eye-opening. There's something I used to do.
Okay. Just a moment. Okay. And once they accept that invitation, it reflects in their comment. So, Kel, I like this point that you have made. What do you think about this? So the person is engaging. That is sociality. It then means that your field of experience overlapped with that person.
Exactly.
So because the field of experience has overlapped, there is a basis for communication. So some of the crises you see online, which we made reference to earlier, emanate from the inability to understand that it is not everybody or every comment that you should respond to, except you feel that there are issues of cognition and you want to throw a question. Do you mean to say, because this is what I meant to say? Because if you raise an issue on a platform and the response you get has no correlation to the principal posts, there is no acceptance of intentionality for communication. There is no acceptance of that shared intentionality. The person's field of experience has not overlapped with yours. So there can be no communication until you have had an overlapped field of experience. So, and that takes you to understanding, because the sharing of meaning, which is the definition of communication, is towards understanding, towards relationship building. Because when you communicate with people and you are in sharing meaning, you are deepening your understanding so that you can do what? Cultivate relationship. What do you want to use it for?
Communication.
To enhance your ability to relate with that person. It could be on a subject, it could be on other social issues. But it is to enable both of you to have mutually beneficial relationship. From shared intentionality, you share meaning. You move to understanding. You move to cultivate relationship, to deepen your conversation and engagement in a way that is mutually beneficial. It could be for resource governance, like maybe you are a minister, you have invited me to a stakeholder meeting. Okay, we are discussing about something that is within your purview and you want to take input. Some of the things you see with town hall meeting that the federal government does geopolitically now, okay? So it could be towards resource governance, but it could be for purpose of passing a message to me as a business owner, and you want me to subscribe to the services or product that you are producing or marketing. So it serves the purpose of what? Social organization, as in the case of minister in a town hall meeting.
Yeah.
It serves business purposes, and in the case of a business, calling the stakeholders to share meaning. But it could also be for the benefit of strengthening just the relationship that two or more people have, to deepen it further so that they can relate. So it is sharing of meaning, not transfer of information. It is incomplete to say communication is a transfer of information. It is sharing of meaning. So you can see how. Did you see the steps, right?
Yes.
Shared intentionality, shared meaning, cultivate relationship, build understanding, build mutually beneficial relationship. Could be for individual, for you to be, maybe you are trying to get me to be more effective as a person.
Yes.
Say, well, when do you wake up? Do you do exercise? Do you do some workout? What do you eat? Okay? It could be for business. Have you heard about this product? Or are you aware of this service? Or like in governance. Okay? So it is goal directed.
Yes. Yes.
That meaning sharing is goal directed. So most of the crises that you see online that you made reference to earlier, there wouldn't be basis for them to start with if we understand that it is sharing of meaning. The moment you see certain responses, you know that that person is not ready to share meaning with you. And you don't have to go further
to engage such a person.
No, you do not have to. If you think the response is sincere and you think the person don't really understand, you will see it in the context in which the communication has come. Don't forget that almost 80% of communication, they are not verbalized in the way you see it. They are not written. They are even when they are written, you spot it in the tone. Is in tonality, is in non-verbal language. What we call paralinguistics. Okay? Because the bulk of communication is paralinguistics. Gestures, tonality. So from the way somebody even texts a response to your post, you will know whether the person is willing to understand you and build a relationship and deepen the conversation from the tone. Because if somebody responds to you and says, this is just propaganda and rubbish, you already know that you have no basis to have a conversation.
He has taken a side and locked off his mind from further sharing of meaning. Thank you. There's something I do. I struggle to stop doing it, but I do it. Sometimes when I write a post on Facebook, I intentionally commit some grammatical errors so that I will be able to convey the message of such a post in a way that my audience can understand it perfectly clear. Let's say I can say you would have been here earlier, safe for the trouble you had on your way. But instead of saying safe for the trouble you had on your way, which I'm sure most people are not used to, I can simply say, find something else to replace it. Something, even if it does not fit in that context. But I know if I use the correct one, that the meaning will be lost. And my audience will struggle to understand the message I'm trying to pass. So I want you to tell me, is it better to commit such grammatical error as long as it better conveys the meaning of your message, or you should stick to what is grammatically correct even when your audience are going to struggle to understand it?
My preference is for the latter. And I say this because, I have had the privilege to do a study on social media within digital space. The essence is first to build friendship, and then by implication a community towards what? Collaboration, which is another aspect of sharing meaning in communication.
Yes.
Collaboration. Okay? So there is an aspect to it that is often missed by many people. Social mediation is also about learning, cognition. It's about that. So people should be able to learn. Your followers, your friends should be able to learn from what you have posted. Don't forget that we all are learning. There are times I make a post and I will even omit a word or whatever. Some people come, who are my friends, come to some call me directly if they have if there are people that will come a long way and have my phone number. They'll say, check this your post. I will now realize that, oh, I omitted something, or that kind of a thing, that is part of the learning. It's not unidirectional. You that you made the post, you will learn from some of those who will make comment on it. So it is both. Social mediation is both for cognition, collaboration, and for community building. So it is better that you state things in the correct way. I say this because these are some of the things that emanated from my study. My PhD thesis is on social media and voting behavior. And it gave me opportunity to see a lot of dimensions, to communication, particularly in the social space. People talk of social media today as if it's entirely new. And that's why we try to define it in the way in which it should be defined. Digital social media.
Yes.
That is it. Social media is not new. Digital social media is what is new.
Yes.
Because social media, we were already used to all sorts of social mediation, before modern digital communication culture. And I'll give you a very clear example because we have made reference to campuses. When you walk around on campuses, you see faculties and departments littered with boards, notice boards, especially press associations. When you see somebody walk up to a press stand on campus, especially the ones that are not encased, where you could read and make a comment, that is social media. When a member of a press club posts an article on the press club, that is social media. And I'm not originating something that has no basis in scholarship. So when you make a comment, you see some people go there and make a comment and say, this is nonsense. Somebody will say, this is good. That is social media. Sometimes you go into the bathroom on campus and you see what people write. And people are responding. Somebody will write inappropriately on the wall, and another person is countering.
Even in police cells and prisons.
That is social media. Those graffiti that you see, that is social media, but it is not in the sense we talk about it today, because today we talk about digital social mediation. So I just feel that it's important that we get this clear.
Yes. Yes. And I'm curious, with the answer you've been giving to these few questions, I'm curious to know what your perception, your personal philosophy and perception about truth in communication is.
Truth
in communication.
Truth?
Yes.
TRUTH?
Yes.
You won't find truth where humans are. You won't find. To say we are all truthful all the time is to say that we are some kind of vegetables that have no life within us. And then we only bend to the caprices and whims of those who are controlling us. So the concept of truth in communication is very difficult to establish. Why do I think it's difficult to establish? You must ab initio agree on what you intend to express and agree on the metrics by which you want to measure it. So what metrics do we want to use to measure truth? Because a human is a product of experiences with idiosyncrasies, product of a history. For instance, I am an activist for social causes that are beneficial to the largest majority of people. I want to be identified with things that are rewarding to the majority. So to that extent, I'm an activist. So if you throw something that I think does not serve the purpose of majority of the people and I'm writing about it, I cannot be telling you that I'm writing the truth. I'm writing from my perspective. So how do you establish what truth is? I'm not saying that, it's impossible in the sense in which I started to say, I said it's difficult. When a human is involved, there are feelings, there are emotions, there are history, there are cultural idiosyncrasies, there are preferences for perspective, there are ideologies involved. I trained as a journalist. I have taught journalism. I have practiced journalism. I can't be writing a story and be telling you that you should take it hook, line, and sinker, that is the truth. I'm not talking of opinion. I'm talking of news that I have written. All the news stories that I have written all my life. I can't force it on you to say you should take it as the truth. Because in any case, while I was writing, I was entitled to individual reporter selectivity. The perspective from which I wrote those stories are informed by my personal philosophy. I have never written a story to say one governor or minister or a president or a councillor has come to commission a water project. Because as far as I'm concerned, from my own point of view, from my own history and what I believe, it is complete nonsense. Because governments are established to provide those things to start with. So how is it news that a minister has commissioned a road? How is that news? It is the duty of those who work in the communication space of the minister to push it out as part of the minister's activity. And then the journalists pick that and restore it in a context that suits the editorial policy of the paper that he or she is writing for, or the broadcast, whatever, whether irrespective of the media system. Okay? But that is news for some other persons who feel that there is a need to let people know that this has happened. It is not the journalist's duty to say that this. So if I attend such an event, it will be part of the story that this water project is new. It can form my headline. What will form my headline, what will constitute my headline, is the fact that this is a community of 50,000 people with a water project now here. It then means that a number of people in this community will have access to water, and to that extent, their quality of life is improved. That is the dimension for me, not the fact that I will glorify a councillor or a minister or anybody for that matter for commissioning. So why would my title be Minister Commissions
Borehole?
My perspective would be that this road has been bad, and this is the number of people that have died on account of the fact that this road wasn't motorable. With what has happened now, with the rehabilitation of this road and appropriate regulation and self-regulation by drivers and road users, we expect that there will be a reduction in fatalities.
Let's talk about PR.
I don't know whether it makes sense to you.
It makes a lot of sense.
So when we talk about truth and fact, it must be, there must be a foundation for it. Foundation for truth and fact for me as Omoni is it must speak to material issues of people's daily survival. How is it that the life of people are improved upon by an incident, not by the occurrence of the incident itself?
Yes.
So I will be more interpretive.
Yes. Talking about this truth, let us look at PR, both in business, in government, and in other areas where they need PR, including individuals. These days, individuals get PR for proper branding. So PR, is it about telling the truth? Or has it become a way of packaging lies? I mean, a legalized way of telling lies. What exactly is PR? Because government also, they spend so much money on PR. And at the end of the day, we don't know what we're hearing for them. If the essence of this, the PR is for the people to know the truth, or for them to be able to package lies and sell to the people.
All right. So you have actually hit at the heart of a raging debate. But let me try to correct some perceptions. First and foremost is the use of the word PR. We have as professionals. I'm a fellow of NIPR. As professionals, and as a scholar in that field, I mean, we avoid using the word PR in the sense in which many people use it, because, I mean, somebody paid a courtesy call on an organization, and an uninformed member of staff of such an organization who does not know the meaning of public relations, who feel that public relations is when you give bribe to people. That person will come to say, what are you guys doing? I hope you are doing PR for these people. That's why when we started, I defined what communication is. That it is not merely the transfer of information, but the sharing of meaning. So their public relations is not offering of bribe or whitewashing a dark spot. No. Public relations is everything you do to build what? Goodwill. Sincerely, transparently, honestly, truthfully, repeatedly, strategically. You don't just do it. You do it for a purpose. So every public relation offering from any organization takes oxygen from the strategy of that organization. It connects. Okay? So when you use media systems of communication, when you use events, when you use daily encounters, when you use deliberately instituted or created programs like town hall, stakeholder meeting, when you use that to bring in people who are affected or otherwise may be affected by your activities, to share information with them, to share meaning with them, to get media systems of communication to also help to publicize that which you are doing sincerely, honestly, truthfully, factually, repeatedly. Towards what? Building an understanding. Remember where we started from. Building what? Understanding. Because inviting them to share meaning is to cultivate a relationship with them and build trust. You cultivate relationship, you get deeper understanding, you build understanding, you build trust. From trust, you migrate to influence. You can't influence somebody who does not trust you.
That is truth.
So public relations, I call public relations as the king of communication management. Because within the space called communication management, you have journalism, you have advertising, you have strategic communication, you have organizational communication, you have all kinds of communication, all kinds of tools that you can use. But public relations is the closest to the definition that I have just offered about what communication is. Remember, I told you,
Yes.
sharing meaning, cultivating relationship, deepening understanding, building trust towards achieving mutually beneficial relationship. That was the definition of communication I gave you. How is that different from the definition I just gave you about PR, about public relations? Public relations is, look, everything you do is communicative in public relations, including what you wear, the kind of colors. Isn't that connected to communication?
It is.
We call those meta communication. The dressing, the kind of colors you choose.
Meta communication.
Meta communication. META communication as one word. Because communication it comprises meta communication, paralinguistics. All this, my movement, these are paralinguistics. They are paralanguage. Those are things that are not expressed verbally, but that constitute deeper meaning in communication context. When somebody repeatedly wears white, what does that convey? You know, I went to University of Oyo, where the degree that you are awarded is communication arts, not mass communication, because mass communication is a component of communication arts. And my teachers taught me the significance of colors. Colors are not just existing in void.
And by the way, we're putting on white and white.
Yeah. So there is.
Just could you please just a few seconds tell us the meaning of white? If someone constantly put on white, what does it mean?
Well, if you ask me, it conveys very, very, very easy definition of the person as somebody who is clean. Number one, that person is a stickler to neatness. Okay? Brilliant white also shows transparency. A criminal is not likely to wear white. If somebody is planning to do robbery in a space, white is not the color because it's very easy to be spotted.
Yes, even in the dark.
So that's what I talked about, transparency. I mean, philosophically, white will signify something different to people from certain other groups. Because if you also repeatedly wears white, I mean, there's a sense in which it is construed in the metaphysical world. But I'm talking of ordinarily cleanliness, brilliance, boldness. That is the way I will define that. So, but having said that, so when people talk about public relations, when people say PR, often they are referring to inappropriate way of enlisting people's support.
Yes.
That is what general. So when somebody say, Kel, have you done PR for this man? Have you given him something? On what basis are you giving something? To buy his conscience or to do what? So in public relations, from the point of view of the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations, where I am a fellow, okay, from the point of view of African Public Relations Association, where I'm the Secretary General, or from the context of the African Regional Council, for PR and communication management as an arm of Global Alliance, we define public relations as all things you do that brings you goodwill, and you do them sincerely. You do them consistently. You do them strategically. And you could use the media of communication to express it. Towards what? Building understanding with people who are your stakeholders. Okay? Towards what? Building understanding. So that thing you are doing, you are cultivating their relationship towards an understanding in order to build trust. So when you talk in corporate sense, that trust gives you measure of influence and believability and integrity that makes your service and product to become so distinct that people believe that because this is coming from this company, this is a good one. So that is when you begin to talk about the concept of brand.
Yes.
Okay? So because as you are a brand.
Yes.
So you are a brand because of what you have done consistently, repeatedly to build goodwill and understanding, cultivate relationship, cultivate trust. And you are doing them in a way that is mutually beneficial. That is not only of benefit to you.
Yes.
Public relation activity or program must benefit all the stakeholders that are involved within that ecology, within that ecosystem. So it is not selfish. It is not whitewashing something. It is not presenting something that is criminal as if it is not a criminal matter. No. Public relations is what you do consistently to present a viewpoint that is honest, factual, and contextual, strategic, in order to do what? To bring you goodwill as an organization, as a human being, as a country. Because Nigeria as a country is a brand.
Yes.
Just the way in which you care, you are a brand.
That is true.
So it is the same way in which companies, within the Nigerian system, National Orientation Agency is a brand. And so everything that NOA will do must be such that brings goodwill onto the Nigerian nation and improve on Nigeria's reputation as reputational assets. Because don't forget that every brand, when you talk about sharing meaning and seeking understanding and mutually beneficial, it does not end in having a distinct brand. You must continue in what you do so that everything you do incrementally adds to your reputational asset, to your reputation as an asset that you can trade on, because reputation is an asset.
Yes. Very correct. A senator once told me, I want to ask this question because of your background in journalism. A senator once told me that the reason why politicians in Nigeria are not afraid or are no longer afraid of the media is because the media now cares more about breaking news than following up news to a logical conclusion. So, for example, if there is a breaking news now that says that the president is massively corrupt, or the president was caught doing something that is illegal, unlawful, it will start trending immediately and then die down once there is another breaking news. So people forget about the first one and follow up the second one, and it continues like that. So if I see something trending about me that is negative, I can simply say, don't mind it, just leave it. Something else is coming that will make them forget about me. So this senator told me that this is the reason why Nigerian politicians are no longer afraid of the media, reporting, journalism, and the rest of it. So as from your experience as a journalist, do you think that this is correct?
It is not correct. It is just another phase in the evolution of our democracy. I will say this to you. If the internet does not forget, if the internet does not forget, it means that whatever happened has gone there as part of the repository. It doesn't matter if 10 or 1 million incidents happen thereafter. It is there in the cooler.
Breathing.
It is there. So there is no wrong that anyone has done that has got into the media space that will be forgotten just because other incidents happen. It will just be there hibernating and to be resurrected. And I do not agree that journalists are just focused on breaking the news. I know that there has been deliberate and inadvertent attempts to make journalism not to play the role it should play in a democracy. But I know that the Nigerian space is still peopled by journalists who believe in investigation, who believe in interpretation of things in the way that makes meaning to people. Because let me tell you, the crisis of democracy is linked with the crisis of journalism. Every journalist knows that he or she has a duty to report in a way that holds those who are acting in official capacity to be accountable to the people that they are leading. That is something that shouldn't be lost on any journalist. So there is absolutely no reason why anyone in the Senate will think that a journalist is just interested in breaking the news. Despite the challenge of practicing journalism in Nigeria, the average Nigerian journalist is a laborer in the vineyard of the people. I say this without any fear of contradiction. The journalist has not been adequately rewarded for his job, for what he's doing. Among the most patriotic Nigerians are journalists. Some continue to work under very challenging situations, yet they do that which the Constitution enjoins them to do, which is what? Hold government accountable to the government. So it is not correct. What has happened is that the disruption that has come upon the communication space on account of the evolution of communication technologies, I refer to the public communication culture that is the dominant now. It takes attention away from quite a number of things, focusing more on something that is trending, which is momentary. So something may trend after some time, you think something else happened to overtake it. So there has been a fundamental disruption in the communication space. In many instances, those disruptions have undermined ethical journalism because that communication space now is peopled by some people who call themselves journalists, but they are not journalists. It's a profession. It's not an all-comers affair. There's a process. It has a body of knowledge. It has ethical code. There is certification involved. Those things are constitutive of any appropriate definition of profession. The medical doctor knows that there are codes governing, aside from the body of knowledge that he has passed through, and the certification. It doesn't stop there. Certification. There are codes. As long as you are in practice, you must follow certain codes. Most of the things that you see in the digital space, especially on social media, are not coming from journalists. So there's a sense in which citizen journalism that has flourished with the emergence of digital communication technologies. There's a sense in which those things also have reduced the opacity in governance. There's a sense in which those things have also constituted checks on the attitude of those who are elected or appointed to govern. There's a sense in which citizen journalism has helped to put them in check.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, any citizen that has a very good camera and has access to the internet can expose anything.
That is correct.
And that was what we saw in the killing of George Floyd.
Yes.
In the US, a bystander,
Recorded.
a young person, recorded it in and pushed it up, and that was how we got to see that this looks like a premeditated murder. So, to that extent, citizens journalism, as that young girl did in the US, has helped to shape accountability and responsibility in governance, especially by agencies in the security sector, in the security governance sector. But that is not journalism, that is not ethical journalism, that is within the contemplation of Section 22 of the Nigerian Constitution. And as you see in many constitutions across the world, the press, it says the press, ordinary citizens do not constitute the press until they have immersed themselves in the body of knowledge that constitute journalism literature, get certificated, and swear to abide by the ethics of journalism. That is the sense, and they are practicing in a press, in a media organization that is involved in news production or otherwise. That is the sense in which they will constitute part of the press. Otherwise, they are just citizens exercising their right to freedom of expression.
In a society where everyone is a suspect, both those who tell the truth and those who lie, would you say that the Nigeria communication space has been used to enlighten the people, or is being used to manipulate? And how can one differentiate the truth from the lies?
Fantastic. John Milton in Paradise Lost already warned us about what is likely to happen to the human space. And he said, let truth be juxtaposed with falsehood, and let people who are the onlookers decide what exactly is the reality.
Powerful.
But we are faced with a situation in which documents are cloned, voices are cloned, images are cloned, circumstances are cloned using AI tools. And they are supposedly representational of fact and truth. That is the point in which that's the point I was trying to make, which when you pose that question about truth, and I say it is difficult to establish. So the point I'm trying to make is, from the philosophical point, fact, reason, rationality is deducted from the exchange of a thesis and the antithesis. And then you arrive at what? A synthesis. So you push an idea on your Facebook page, on the X handle, or on Instagram or LinkedIn, and other people engage it. It's a conversation, it's engagement. Don't forget that sociality, that is engagement. Don't forget that that is the soul of social mediation. And it helps people to also arrive at the truth. People do a post and people engage that post. From the engagement, you will see how people challenge the parent post, the original post. Through what? Logical reasoning. So we will get to know the truth, we will get to know the fact from what? A reasoning process that enables every idea to be submitted for scrutiny. You will always have an idea of what exactly the truth is. Professor Adesanya, who taught me language use in the Nigerian mass media when I was studying for the MA degree at the University of Ibadan, once told us in the class that, look, the best way to have a fair idea of what exactly happened at a program is for you to read 4 stories about the event in 4 different newspapers or listen to it in electronic media. That once you pick 4 newspapers and you read reports about a particular incident, you will never get the same perspective. So, but when you now aggregate them, because you have read all, it gives you an idea of what exactly transpired. Not for you to read the report in just one newspaper and take it hook, line, and sinker. So can you see how the disruptions in the communication space and the reality of subjectivity of the human species
Yes.
and our history, because we are product of histories, to be either a leftist or a radical, a centrist or a conservative, how those things also shape our interpretation of reality. The reason why I told you it's difficult for you to know what the truth is, because a centrist, a conservative, and a radical are likely to give you different versions of a particular incident. So how do you establish the truth? Because they are product of histories which has the histories that have shaped their interpretation of that report. So you want to read a paper that has a bias for social democracy as against another paper that is basically just non-aligned to philosophies and ideologies. So this is the point that I would like you to take away, to say that truth and falsehood. Personally, I don't like people to get away with falsehood. But how do you say that somebody has said something that is false? How do you declare it false? You must have a version that negates it. Otherwise, mere pronouncement that it is falsehood is not sufficient. Like the lawyers will say, whoever alleges must prove. So if I have put something in the social space and you say it is not correct, that is just an interjection. You have not done anything other than an interjection. You must proceed to prove from your own argument, from what is available to you, for other people who are spectators to see that I was actually wrong based on what you have provided.
Yes.
And they must be verifiable.
Earlier, you said that you don't like people getting away with falsehood. I love that because this podcast was built on such foundation, from my passion to be able to bring clarity to a lot of issues where people can really look at something, see something, think for themselves logically, and be able to pinpoint what is true from what is false. Based on this, I want to ask, from the Nigerian social activism, which you've stated that you are a part of, I want to know if it has changed anything, if it has actually changed, affected any positive change in the country, or it has made the noise louder. I'm saying this with very deep respect for people like Showore. We all know Showore as an activist, and people like Very Dark Man, who is now trending everywhere. I mean, whether you like them or you hate them, you can't dispute the fact that they've been able to speak for a lot of people who do not have a voice. They've been able to make a lot of sacrifices for the less privileged, especially Very Dark Man. He has been doing exceptionally well. I am sorry, I'm biased when it comes to him. I love the effort he has put through into his activism. But then I also wonder, or I am concerned, the fan base that they've built. If you look at it, you see that it's made up majorly of people who can no longer think for themselves. Whatever these activists say is what they take hook, line, and sinker without analyzing anything. And it makes me to wonder if they've created any change or they've added to the noise and the already chaotic media space.
Okay, so unfortunately, I won't be able to talk much about Shore because some of the issues are matters before the court. However, the question you ask about whether social activism has been able to
Effect any positive change.
to have any impact. First is to say that I would not agree that most of the people that are following the activists are unable to think for themselves. Many of them are deep, profound thinkers. There are those who may not have deep understanding of what it is that they've been doing. There are so many people within the social activism ecology. I mean, so many. And of course, you've mentioned Showe prominently, and of course, rightly so. While I'm not going to be able to make a comment concerning what he's doing at the moment because there are matters before the court, I can say to you in exercise of my right to free speech that every country, every nation, every society needs a modicum of social activism. It helps to put those that we have entrusted with governance, on their toes in a way. Imagine if nobody exists in the social space to question things that are happening in society. I don't know whether you get the point I'm making.
Yes.
Just imagine that we run a society in which you cannot question anything. You cannot challenge anything. Such a society can have progress because often progress comes from revolutionary ideas that are coming not necessarily from those who are within the governance process, the official governance process. Because the governance process also includes these activities we are talking about. Because when you talk about government, if you remove the citizens, it's incomplete. You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
So we may have issues with strategies, we may have issues with frequency, we may have issues with maybe patterns, tempo, dimensions of social activism, okay? But every society needs a modicum of social activists who are able to galvanize things in a particular direction that deepen the growth and development of society. And I say this looking back at the history. Even President Tinubu was part of the process that deepened the democracy. So I'm not sure that, it's something for somebody like him, I've heard him said that some people have abused him, but that what he doesn't have the problem with that because it's the leader, he had to take the insult. Do you understand that? Because he's been in the trenches. He's been part of this movement.
But is he really doing that?
No, I mean, we're talking in historical context.
Yes, okay.
So I'm saying, because you asked me what contribution of activism it will be, whether there has been an impact. And I'm saying that, of course, there has been impact. We may disagree with methodologies, we may disagree with strategy, we could even disagree with frequency and tempo and pattern and nature.
Very correct.
But I'm saying that modicum of activism is required by all societies. And if you go to the United States, you see it. I was involved in the environmental rights issues in the Niger Delta for more than 10 years. As a student leader, I traveled, on the waters. I remember one of the incidents that we had to use flying boat from Yenagua to Odioma. 2 trips when there was a crisis there. Odioma is right at the mouth of the Atlantic. Clearly, 200 meters before you get to Odioma, you could see the impact of the Atlantic on the body of the local water that flows into the Atlantic. All we had was just jackets, life jackets. Of course, we could have perished. But it was part of the work that we did, as part of public spiritedness, not because anybody paid us. I don't know whether you get the point. So, and people have died defending their environment. But others have been jailed. Others have been maimed. Others have suffered irredeemable damages. But what they did, each and every one of them, what they did was incremental into the kind of what we have now in terms of environmental governance. Because they called attention to the fact that we couldn't continue in that manner to degrade the environment in that sense. And I speak of people like Ken Saro-Wiwa. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I speak of those wonderful people who have died. And I speak of people who are still fighting now within that space. And that's one aspect. The question of climate change is there. The question of women's rights is there. I was a member of Women in Nigeria because it's the only women organization that permits for male membership. It was the most leftist of women group of those days because it has its origin from campuses, from scholars. You understand? I was one of the assistant secretary general, and I know the struggle that women in Nigeria have waged concerning the question of women's rights in Nigeria. Far back. I'm talking of an organization that have existed for decades. And then you also have people who are talking about issues of educational rights, social rights. You have all kinds of organizations within the social space that are advocating that certain things must be done properly. Today, you can go you can write to an organization requesting information about a particular thing, a particular transaction. You couldn't do that before. The reason you can do that now is because organizations like Media Rights Agenda, rally like-minded people to champion the passage of Freedom of Information Act.
Fought for it.
It's activism. It's activism. Look at the prophets. No, what did Jesus Christ, what did he do? Isn't that activism?
It is.
So the point I'm trying to make is that look at the prophets. What was it that Prophet Muhammad did? Peace be upon him. Activism. I was discussing yesterday with a colleague of mine about what I read about the teachings of the prophet, because I read all kinds of things, especially about religion. I'm Christian, I'm Anglican, But the point is, I read about all kinds of religion. I'm trying to see what is it that is different to understand. And I read a lot about the teachings of the prophet. Prophet Muhammad. Okay? Those are revolutionary ideas. So we cannot be people who subscribe to the shepherding, the inspiration of those prophets, and say we don't want to see activism in our space. Nobody will say that. I'm not sure that even the president will say that, because he was in that space.
Yes.
So as far as I'm concerned, we need elements of, there could be issues concerning strategy, but honestly, for any society to make progress, you need activists. In fact, Nigeria doesn't have enough.
We need more. We need more.
Indeed.
Now, recently, there is just a follow-up question to this one. Recently, there is this there's someone we know as B Lord. He calls himself B Lord, and he's an entrepreneur. According to him, sells different kinds of things. He's also into real estate and all of that. So recently, B Lord went to China. I'm asking this question because of image. Earlier, you talked about branding and image. B Lord went to China and got iPhone XR upgraded to the newly launched iPhone 17. I don't know how they do it. They convert iPhone XR to iPhone 17. It looks exactly like the same, but it's not the original iPhone 17. And then he brings this iPhone back to Nigeria and he's advertising it. I think he was selling his own about 450,000. But the original iPhone 17, of course, is over 3 million naira. Now, very dark man who is known to have confronted fraud both in the religious space and in business space on social media, went to the same China, did the same thing, and then called out B Lord for selling his own product, his own fake iPhone 17 at an outrageous price. So he crashed his own price to 250,000 or so. Now, beyond all of this is not the reason why I'm asking the question. Beyond all of it, people have been talking about just the price and who is a better business person and who is not a better business person. But do you think that this is going to be a problem for the Nigerian image? How do you think this is going to portray Nigeria globally? People are going to look at us and say, oh, this is a country where the people brag about pirating products like iPhone 17, and they bring it to their country, the fake ones sell it, and they are even fighting about it. Whose price is better on social media? How do you think that such trend affect the reputation of Nigeria globally?
Well, I'm not quite familiar with the narrative that you have, but I know the other character person, the other person you mentioned, VDM. Okay. I see some of the things he does. I don't know the other person that you talked about, but I'm concerned about the reputation of Nigeria. Whatever each of us are doing, whatever we are doing, we need to be very mindful about the implication, not just on our own reputation, but on the reputation of our country. So my response to that is bootlegging, counterfeiting, piracy are very criminal offenses. So I will expect that if indeed these people have been involved in any form of criminality, agencies in the security governance sector should do the needful to be able to restore, to be able to defend our image. To the extent that they have not done so, maybe they didn't feel that there was anything that is fundamentally wrong in what those people have done. Like I said, I don't have the details. But as a public relations professional, I'm concerned about the image of Nigeria. And I feel that whatever each and every one of us is doing, it's important that we ensure that it is in compliance with the law and things that will not just showcase the beauty of the Nigerian brand, but add to the reputational asset of our country.
Gen Z. The Gen Z, I like to call themselves, by the way, I'm not a Gen Z, but the Gen Z, they like to call themselves the coconut head generation, the stubbornness, and they also see themselves as the most intelligent generation. So I want to ask, do you think that they are the most intelligent, informed generation, or you think that they are the most easily misled generation?
You see, the social construction, the way we construct in a social sense, ageism, is not something that I like to embrace. When people say Gen Zs are this, maybe Gen Zs are too, I mean, every generation must discover its mission and fulfill it. That's what Fanon said. That's what Franz Fanon said. What I found from my own study, what I found is that we have a group of people within those you may call Gen Zs that are revolting against the norm. Most of what we condemn as attitudes of people who are in the social category we call Gen Zs, some of the things we condemn, you ask me, I don't have problems. Because you see, a lot has happened in the social space that demands that we don't behave alike. You know, Karl Marx was talking in one of the write-ups, 18th Brumaire of Bonaparte. And he said, the tradition of all past generations weighs like a nightmare on the brains of the living. The interpretation is that every new generation of humans will have a basis to challenge tradition. That is the point that Karl Marx has made. That is the point that Franz Fanon has made. Karl Marx said, look, the tradition of all past generations, past histories, weigh like a nightmare on the brains of the living. Franz Fanon said every generation must, out of relative obscurity, discover its mission, fulfill it, or betray it. So we cannot sit in judgment against the people we call Gen Zs. Nah. The way in which my generation will interpret the world is different from the way they are. If you connect the philosophy of Karl Marx and Franz Fanon that I have just, stated, sometimes it's a revolt. There are things happening within my own space, personally now, that I interpret as a revolt. There's a sense I'm going to relate with my children because I realize that some of the things that I consider very important, they don't look at it that way. In fact, sometimes what I do now often is just to try and understand what my children are saying.
From their own perspective.
I don't force anything because I'm not even in a position to force anything any longer. You know what? The human space has gone through a fundamental disruption with consequences that are both positive and negative. I have no access to phone in the way I do now, in the way my kids do. And that's another level of exposure altogether. It's difficult to do proper orientation now because you are not the only one. Neither is the school the only institution that is impacting on the children, on the young people. There is so much out there in terms of knowledge production, both truth and falsehoods, that are in the internet space that the kids have access to. We can only guide. If you want to do any kind of command style, rather than do a carrot and stick, you want to do all this imposition, insisting that your will must be done or something, you are likely to run into error in trying to give proper orientation to the children, to your children. It's because you are not the only one influencing. As a matter of fact, the struggle that we are waging, economic, social, political, and all sorts, are competing for our attention. The attentional resources of the human person is shattered, threatened, or fundamentally affected in such a way that you don't have all the time that you used to have to focus on orientation of the children. So when you get them devices, you make sure you block sites you don't want them to go to. You know, a lot is hard. See,
sometimes they find a way.
Yeah, indeed, it's a challenge that we all have to deal with. But we cannot insist that somebody who was born 20, 30 years after us must behave in the way that we are behaving. It's impossible. 30 years ago, did we have access to the kind of informational resources that we have today? There was a time in which people were struggling to get content. Big data has given you the content now exponentially. How many of the messages you get are you able to check every day? I go to apps that I use for messaging 3 times in a day. Some people are perpetually on those apps. I don't have that luxury. So you have so many things competing for your attention. That's why I said our attentional resources, the attention ecology, the attention economy is completely in a flux, in a very challenging state that leaves us with little or no time for orientation of the children that are also exposed to the same kind of products, informational products that you're exposed to. You can only guide them to see the positive areas and follow, not to impose your will. This is my position. Any parent who wants to impose his or her will on somebody who is classified as Gen Z will have ailments to contend with. You will get hypertensive. You will die while the Gen Z remains alive. All you need to do is, I will advise, let us understand the thinking pattern. What makes this set of people behave the way they do?
Yeah.
And see how we can find accommodation within their ecosystem.
Refine it.
Yes, if we're able to. If we're unable to, what do we do
with it
to make them to trust us to the point where I told you about communication? Trust is central.
Very important.
Yes, to make them to trust us, to be able to even tell us what they are seeing online and how they think. I've stopped saying I don't have time when it comes to young people talking to me. Yeah. I try to create the time now. I just want to listen to see whether I can find space within their own reality. Because if you do not belong, if your field of experience does not overlap, remember the foundational definition I gave you. There must be an overlap of field of experience for you to be able to share intention, share meaning, cultivate relationship, build trust, achieve mutually beneficial relationship. Trust is central, and communication is the fundamental tool. Communication is the main tool that you need to build relationship.
Now, with all of this, do you think that influencers, because I mean, this generation are mostly online, do you think that influencers have become more influential than journalists?
Thank you. Let me say this to you.
I mean, just before you say that, you know, a lot of people, these people we're talking about, I dare say that most of them know hundreds, not if not thousands of influencers on social space. And they don't even know people like you.
Yeah. That is the time we are in. For instance, the best journalists that Nigeria has produced, if you list them and you put them together and you look at their followers through their social media handles, if you add everything together, they will not be up to 10% of the followers of Davido. Because Davido too has become part of the media ecology beyond journalistic practices. When you talk of media, in its modern sense, within the context of digital public communication culture, Davido has more relevance than when you assemble the best of our veterans in journalism, because the digital culture gives him that followership. The entertainment media, which is of interest to the generation you are talking about, give Davido access to build a following that is beyond what Kabiru Yusuf, Dapolon Yomi, Dare Babanisa, Dile Olojede, you know, Unduka Obaigwera, all of them, that, you know, the journalists that we respect, the totality of their followings, okay? This is what the human space has become. We face that reality and see how to navigate. it. The way we can disrupt it positively to answer to our bidding is to be involved in that process, to understand the doings of that space, fitting how much influence can we exert. But on a more serious note, China is defining criteria for you to be an influencer.
Yes, I read that.
So what are we doing? When you call somebody an influencer, he's able to influence certain things. He has a lot of following, and because those followers are seeing what the person is posting, they are affected by it. What message do we want to pass to the younger people? Which influencers do we use? I'm a communications person. One of the key things that you need to understand in our space, your messaging is as important as the audience. Where are your audiences? You take the message to wherever they are. Somebody said, you have a TikTok account. What are you doing with it on TikTok? There are messages you want to pass now to the younger people. you may have to go to TikTok.
Because that is where they are.
Because that's where they are. So if as a communications person, I'm using my own personal preferences to decide rather than what data. Remember, technology, data, and the insight that data provides are resources that every communication person require. We must question all our assumptions. We must challenge all our assumptions. In fact, I have told some of my students that, look, we must begin to do a fresh review of all foundational theories of communication to see their relevance to modern times. We must challenge all our assumptions, all our certitudes, all our norms. We must challenge them and see how that helps to answer modern questions of survival of humanity. I cannot take just my own thinking, my personal philosophy, as the basis for choosing a platform, a media system that I'm going to use. If I'm a government appointee, if I'm a political appointee, or maybe I'm elected as a political person, and I'm talking about, I'm doing an exploration of media systems of communication. It will not be up to me. It will be up to technology, data, and the insight they provide that I will use to choose which platform
to go to.
Indeed. You want to talk to Gen Zs and the bulk of them are on TikTok, and you have a very negative perception of what TikTok is. So your message is dead because you are not going to go there because you have a wrong perception of what it is. Instead of you to design your message and allow it to run on the kind of music that these people want to hear and push it to their space.
Do you think that the APC-led government made this mistake in the last general election where they kept on calling the obedient social media noisemakers instead of bringing their message to them? And people have also said that during the NSAS protest, that X, Twitter as of then, was more powerful than the traditional media spaces. So do you think this is the mistake that the government have been making, trying to not accept the fact that this is where they should take the message to?
Okay, so let's be clear. First and foremost, I work for government, so I'm unable to do an objective analysis. I'm unable to make an objective commentary about whether it's APC or Labour in context in which you are talking about it.
Okay,
let me tell you what I feel.
Mm.
What I feel is that we are not communicating. Remember where we started this from.
Yes.
We are not communicating. As a people, we need to communicate. What is the other person saying? We shouldn't label ourselves. But what is it what point are you making? What point am I making? Can we have a synthesis? Can we have an understanding? If we are communicating, we'll have an understanding. But whatever it is, we must respect our humanity. We must respect ourselves. You cannot insult somebody on the basis of the fact that the person's opinion is different from yours. The Constitution guarantees free expression. In fact, I'll say this to you. One of the most interesting philosophers of dialogue, his name is Martin Buber. You can search him on and read some of his ideas. Martin Buber said, already envisioned that whatever happens to communication space, whatever happens to humanity in terms of our interaction, the value that humans desire to be respected, to be loved, that value must be respected irrespective of the era in which we operate. If you insult me online, I'm not going. I may not respond to you, but I'm not likely to come into your space. And do you know the implication? Instead of winning me over to vote for your candidate, you have lost me. You have lost my vote. Because look, let me tell you, communication is the most central resource. That's what you and I are doing. That's what children are doing in school as it is now. They are communicating, enriching their cognition and understanding of things from one subject to another. It is the language. It is the resource of socialization for social organization. We must be able to communicate. And because our cranial capacity as humans, our intellection, our cognition is far superior than animals, we should deploy it to deepen our understanding of each other rather than behave like species of lower intelligence. I tell people once you are online or wherever you find yourself, you must speak with the other person with respect.
Good.
Let me tell you, one principle people should adopt is to speak with people as if those people are those who will determine their next meal.
What they become.
Not for you to become psychophantic. No, not for you to begin to patronize, but talk to the other person in a way that will make that person feel respected, even if you disagree with the opinion.
Brilliant. You know, I've built a very strong relationship online, in the media space, just by disagreeing or agreeing with people respectfully. I ask a lot of questions, both from religious angles, politically, and the rest. And I'm not someone who is emotionally swayed. I like, even if you disagree with me, you have that right to disagree with me. I'm more concerned about the superior argument. Why do you see things the way you see them? So when I read posts on social media that does not align with what I personally believe in, I ask questions. Could you please explain to me why you think like this? But in the social space these days, you can make a post and the next thing is attack. There is a blog, Naira Land. I love Naira Land, but I don't go there any longer because for every content that is posted there, you go through the comment, people who are not talking about the primary post. They are rather attacking themselves. He's Igbo, he's Yoruba, he's this person, he's Christian, he's a Muslim, he's APC, he's Labour Party. How does that make sense to the primary post?
I told you we are not communicating. When I say we're not communicating, I'm saying that we're not sharing meaning.
We're not sharing meaning.
So how is somebody's ethnicity or religion or circumstance of geography of origin, how do those elements define what the person is? How can you, on the basis of just seeing the name of somebody that is from so he's automatically going to be pro-Tinubu or pro-Obi? So no, I find it hard to process. As a matter of fact, somebody insulted me before reading my comment by just saying my name.
It's one of them.
The guy just defined me. And then he came back to delete the comment and send me a message to say he's sorry. He said he was sorry that
Just imagine.
he didn't read the comments. My comment wasn't on my page. It was on somebody else's page. I just responded to something, and over 30 people liked my comment. He abused me before reading it. It has nothing to do with politics. It has nothing to do with religion or ethnicity. It has to do with some of the challenges of relationship issues and what have you. And the guy already... And later he came to apologize, and later he sent me an invite because he wasn't even my friend. So I accepted the invite. And we relate better now. I see some of the things he posts, I respond to those that I'm able to respond to. But when I said Nigerians are not communicating, I meant that we are not sharing meaning. We are not communicating by sharing our intentions, to allow the other persons to see what we are saying and accept that invitation to share intention towards sharing meaning, towards building, cultivating relationship and building trust, to deepen our understanding and then make communication to be mutually beneficial. We are not. So when I say we are not communicating, this is what I meant. We are abusing ourselves, of course, but that is not the communication that I meant. The communication that I meant is the sharing of
meaning. Very, very important. The rest are just us.
Because sharing of meaning, it leads, one thing leads to another, one thing leads to
just
another.
as you explained.
Thank you. So that's it.
Just two more questions before I let you go, sir.
Yeah, okay.
Just two more questions. I know. One is about the Arise TV and channels television. In Arise TV, we'll have Rufai Oseni, and in channels television, we'll have Shion
Okinbalue.
Now, these two people are regarded as one of the most trending two news broadcasters on our traditional media space. And because I am interested in learning how to do better in my own space, I would want you to quickly tell me, between these two people, I'm sure you've watched their interviews, how they interact with their guests. Between both of them, who do you think do their job better?
It depends on what they set out to achieve. Don't forget that every media organization has a policy and philosophy that drives its activities. And those who work in those spaces have to act in line with that. That's what I meant when I said public relations writes also on the strategy of organizations that where they function. Public relations practitioners, of course, the activities take oxygen from strategies of organizations where they work. The same thing with people who work in media organizations. What is the editorial policy? What is the philosophy that is behind the setting up of Arise as against channels? For me, it is not a question of preference. It is a question of communication. I'm back to where we started from. Every profession, including broadcasting, has a body of knowledge that those who want to practice in that space have to immerse themselves in to be certificated. And there are codes. I don't know whether you get what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Respect, courtesy is something that you cannot negotiate. It's not negotiable. In any way you are, wherever you operate, beyond media. So if any media personality conducts himself or herself in a way that shows that he or she is disrespectful of the interviewee or the guest, whatever the situation may be, the person has already acted unprofessionally. So for me, it is not about Rufai Oseni or about Shion Okinbalue. I know Rufai Oseni by distance online. I know Shion Okinbalue both off and online. Okay? And I'm not assessing both of them. I will be Socratic in the way I respond to your question by simply saying, it is not about the personalities. It's about the perception. What are they selling as brands? What are they selling as brands? You must discharge the burden of proof that you are responsible, you are professional, that you are detailed, that you have understanding. This must manifest as a professional, irrespective of the space. Does Sean come across like that? Does Rufa Hosseini come across like that? Is that the perception? That's why I'm saying I'm responding with a Socratic method. Because first and foremost, there has been so much convergence that I do not consider myself a television person. Television was part of my childhood experience that I enjoyed. Okay? But now, right on your phone, you access any kind of media, whether it is print or radio or whatever. So I listen to those programs. And I'll say this to you, Kel. We're not sharing meaning. It is very sad. We're not sharing meaning. In most of the episodes that I've seen, we're not sharing meaning. I appreciate what those personalities and others have been doing. But when you brought me here, you have allowed me to do most of the talking, which is what it should be. That's what it should be when you talk about broadcasting and an interviewer and interviewee. Look at our space beyond Okimaloye or even Rufai Hosseini. Do people even allow their guests? You bring people to get their views, to enrich your understanding and push it to your audience to see what you want them to see. But you are not allowing them to talk. That's what we find most times. You are interjecting, you are talking more than the interviewee. Again, do people know what the professional ethics is? I'm not saying Rufai is guilty or Sean or any other person, but I'm saying that this is the takeaway for many people, because I have circles where we try to reflect on some of these things, because I'm essentially a communication person. So you'll find me in many of those circles. You cannot tell your guests. You cannot insult your guests in the studio or outside studio. No. Just the same way in which an influencer cannot insult anybody. If I do a post on any social media now and somebody comes in there to attack me, there is a way in which I will get the thing off. If it's somebody I feel that is raising an issue genuinely, I will express myself to see how we can share meaning. But I'm not going to say you are stupid. I have never said that. For what now? I will not insult anybody who comes even to my page. I will just let the person realize that what he or she has done is inappropriate. Depending on the nature, if the comment is something that I feel is offensive to other people, I may just hide the comment. But I'm not going to use any of such words in my space, not to talk of a broadcast channel. You cannot do it. Listen, any job you do that reduces your humanity is not worth it. The moment you begin to act erratically, the moment you begin to act unprofessionally, you should find another job to do. Because it's not permissible in this space. Erratic, dishonorable, misconduct, despicable behavior, insult, unnecessary interjections, clear insolence.
As if it is a war.
No, now it's not worth it. Anything you do that does not help humanity to be better and does not also improve your brand as a person, that shows that you know what you are doing and you are in charge of your emotions always, it's not worth it. You should find something else to do that will not allow you to be in constant engagement with people. If you cannot tolerate dissension, if you cannot tolerate contrarians, if you cannot tolerate political opposition, I mean, for God's sake, there is absolutely no reason why all of us should belong or be sympathetic to one political party.
That is correct.
Absolutely no reason. So the other person has a right to his or her views. You respect that right. How can you say somebody should stop talking? I've seen that, all those comments online. I've seen where people refer to another person to say, this is nonsense, this is propaganda. You are not communicating. Challenge what the person has said, logic for logic, so that onlookers will see that you have a better offering.
Superior argument.
Not to insult. The moment you begin to insult, your views are gone. Nobody listens to you any longer. So that's it.
Thank you so much. The last question, just one question about religion. Do you think that some of the things our religious leaders teach their religious followers is a problem for us in this country? I will give you an example, sir. I know someone who received money was not expecting money, just got an alert from a stranger, an unknown person. And he was rejoicing, jubilating about it. This was, I think, 50-something thousand naira. Then I told him the right thing to do is to contact the bank and let them know that money was erroneously transferred to your account. That is, if the person does not contact you immediately. He said that doesn't know what I'm saying, that his pastor had prophesied to him that he would get the miracle money in his bank account. So now, because of that prophecy, he believes that whatever money that finds its way to his bank account is from God. It belongs to him, even though he didn't work for it. So in our churches especially, pastors teach about miracle money. You're going to receive miracle money. You're going to get an unmerited favor that you didn't work for. Those kind of teachings, do you think it is a danger to how we think as Nigerians? Or it's something that should be allowed? Because, everybody have freedom of worship and belief.
Okay, thank you. You are hitting on one of the core issues that are affecting. I think the question of faith and religiosity is part of what I'll call victims of the modern era of the disruption that I've been talking about. And I feel that I just told you, I said, the moment people are unable to act professionally, they should leave this space. I think really some of the religious leaders, some of those who claim to be teaching in the religious space need to think again, or probably go back to look at our key texts, both the Bible and the Quran, which are two key religious texts in Nigeria. And there's a need for people to revisit to be sure that they are actually teaching what the holy books have said. Yeah, because I am not a pastor. When I was worshiping in a Pentecostal church, I was asked to come for ordination because I had gone through the process of Believers Bible class. I've done School of Disciple. I've done baptism. I've done all kinds of one. Gone to Bible college and even made a distinction. But I know that I wasn't cut out for pastoral work. Even in Bible college, our teachers told us that it is a calling. And I know I haven't received such a call. So on 3 occasions that I've been asked to come for ordination, I did not go. I declined and I said I won't do it. Because I know that I don't have that.
God has not called you.
I'm not continuing. So some of the people who operate in this space, I think there is a need for them to look at what they are doing sincerely, because there's a sense in which prosperity gospel has destroyed our space, and I have to be very clear about this. If you look at how Europe and North America developed, okay, in the context of what we are talking, our teachings, okay, you will find that one of the philosophies that shaped even social governance in Europe is Calvinism, the teachings of John Calvin, who say a Protestant. In sociology, you will find the topics related to Calvinism when you, in the space of sociology or religion, when you come across Protestantism. So Martin Luther, not Martin Luther King Jr., Martin Luther, who's the spirit behind the foundation of the Lutheran Church, and John Calvin, who preach, a kind of Protestant ethics that preaches hard work and good labor in this world as a ticket to heaven. Those are the things that are the foundation of modern governance in Europe. Though the question of welfare and charity, you find it in social security systems in those countries, but you must work. That's why those economy looks like revolving around the credit system. Everybody must work. Those who cannot work for any reason, there's a way they are supported. But there must be a longevity grant for somebody to be supported. I'm not sure that any government in those countries rely on the question of miracle. I'm not saying miracles don't happen, but I'm just saying that if I get an alert of a money in my account that I'm not expecting, I will try to make findings, and then I will report to the bank to say I got this from so place. Could you please tidy up and get it from my account because I'm not expecting the money? That's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to believe anyone who tells me to expect miracle money and I got a deposit, I got a transfer of $500 million or more into my account, and because somebody had said that I should expect a miracle, that money came from somewhere. It must be an error. It must be an error. You return the money to the source. The way I interpret my own understanding of how God works is to send somebody like you to invite me to do a pitch concerning a communications campaign. And then and I succeeded in getting the pitch done well, and you give me the brief. And it earns me money. That is John Calvin. That is Calvinism.
It rewards to your work.
Yes. So I don't understand such a thing. It doesn't make any meaning. And anybody who is involved in that is destroying the foundations of this society. We need to protect our fabric. we need to protect our social fabric from those very, very dangerous trends. I will not support that as a person. I mean, I didn't just go to school. I think I have some form of education, and I'm a person of faith. I can't see money in my bank account and begin to spend the money when I do not know where it came from. Because I think that maybe, okay, well, I don't understand my God to work that way. Maybe I should summarize like,
For the summary. Thank you so much. Lastly, sir, I like to learn, especially from someone like you who is a communication expert. I need you to just quickly
communication professional. Don't
communication
forget that
a com-
perfection belongs to God.
a communication professional. I like you to just quickly critique how I've been able to, interview you this afternoon. I don't want you to be kind or biased. I want you to be real. I want you to be sincere, because through it, I'm going to learn how to do better. So please critique what I've done today.
Yeah, well, it's been a good outing for me. It's been an opportunity for me to share meaning, and I want to thank you for that. I've been able to at least speak in a sense in which we have an overlapped field of experience, and we're able to get understanding on how things should go. Be, Clearly, I mean, you have done very well in my view, and I say this without any fear of contradiction. You have your questions, the questions you want to ask, you have asked them, and it's general, from social issues to governance to professional. So it is mainly a kind of a personality feature.
Yeah.
And I don't see anything wrong in that, because you have touched on, but the aspect that I'll commend is what I don't see in public broadcasts, where just not many of our professionals in that space conduct real interviews. You gave example of a very combative, of some interviews that can be combative. Something can be quite frantic and engaging and incisive without necessarily being very negative. But once you begin to use negative words, it will be. So to that extent, I think you have done well.
Thank you.
What I will expect is have your questions laid in a way that they just run like a short statement, not complex, not. You can turn around to ask questions that may be complex from the response that your interviewee has given. If you want an more elaboration, explanation of that. So some of the questions are a bit long-winding, rather than just
Brief.
Otherwise, I think it's been a good outing.
Thank you so much, sir. And thank you so much for coming. It's been an honor sitting down here with you. I can't tell you the number of things I've learned, but just listening to you. And hopefully, in the nearest future, we're going to have you once again. I mean, there are just so much to talk about, but because of your time, we're letting you to go today. So thank you so much. And ladies and gentlemen, this is the end of today's episode.
Thank you.
I'd like you to please do not forget to subscribe to our channels and share these videos. I remain your humble host, KAA. See you next time.